Big Ed here. Today we are going to mount the Nikon P series, the 223, onto the Rock River AR A4 upper, the Varmint edition. And I also have there's another review on this upper right here. And this is a 30 millimeter tube right here, and then we're also using the P series mounts right here, and these are Nikon mounts made specifically for this scope right here. And I have, just in the sake of time, I have everything disassembled, but it's pretty easy. Basically, you have two Allen wrenches here, that you'll need. There's two different sizes. One's for the main attachment onto the AR upper itself, and then there's a little smaller one for the actual cap for the ring. Just a couple of quick notes about scopes. This is actually the third time this scope has been mounted onto an AR upper, but you can see there's not a mark on this scope, and basically if there's marks on the tube of a scope, this goes for people that are buying scopes used, it means they weren't mounted correctly, or they're mounted too loose, and the gun was fired and it was sliding around in the in the rings. But you want to make sure you have a nice clean scope if you're looking at a used scope. Also, mounting a scope on an AR is not that difficult. You'll have a lot of problems with a regular steel rifle, when you have, with the receiver of a steel rifle, like, any bolt action rifle. Not all the time, but sometimes that steel, it's much more difficult to mill steel than it is to mill aluminum. And inherently milled aluminum, this is a billet block or a forged that's been milled afterwards. It doesn't matter, but the tolerances are going to be very tight on these AR uppers, extremely tight. So you're not going to have problems with bedding issues or stuff not lining up correctly for the most part for any quality AR upper. They go together pretty smoothly. And basically you can just put your mounts right on, as long as you buy quality mounts. These are Nikon, they recommend this for this scope, and these are about $60, so this is definitely a quality mount right here. And this is a Rock River upper, so we have all quality parts we're starting off with, and this is all the factory hardware. So basically, give us a little room back here, and you can just slide your scope mounts. And just from experience, I know that this scope wants to be all the way forward on this upper. And basically the other thing is, we're not going to go ahead, and I've seen some guys do this, is put the forward mount. You can see it's not even sliding on there. You would be able to slide it on probably here from the front. Yeah, you could do that and get it even farther forward. But the problem with that is, I guarantee you that that it's not lined up correctly, that this fore end is not lined up with the upper receiver perfectly. So you're going to get it, once you tighten down that scope, you're going to get a twist in it. So I would just leave it on the upper receiver, and basically the little bolt right here, which just drops in there, and it keeps the mount from sliding back and forth. And usually you can see there's a little previous thread locker on there. I've never had a problem with these coming loose in an AR receiver, so I'm not going to go ahead and put any more on there. There's already some on there, and we're just going to leave it on there. So we'll go ahead and tighten this base up right here. And usually I just go, just be careful you don't over tighten these things. There is a steel nut on the other side of these, so you're not, you can see there's an insert right there, so you're not bolting into aluminum. But you don't want to go super tight. Make sure there's no, won't slide around, because it is a press fit. So I'd probably go about 15 psi in that ballpark. I'm just guessing, but I've done a lot of mechanical work in my life, so I'm pretty good at guessing where these are. And basically, so the front one's down. We know where that one wants to be. It's all in the most forward position. Leave that back one on loose. Drop that scope in there. Then we're going to want to see what it kind of looks like here. And I like to keep the mounts as far apart as they can be. You're going to get your most rigidity there. If you have them close, you could mount the scope farther forward, but it's all right. I can shoot it. I don't need it all the way forward, but you're going to get a little more rigidity if the mount is farther back. And basically, I like it. I was looking at some of my pictures from earlier, right at that end of that receiver, and I think that's pretty much That's our spot right here. So we'll go ahead, put this one in. Same thing, that one's got a little blue on it right here from the thread locker. And if you have problems with that, you can always, take it out. But I always stress, put the mounts on first, tighten those, make sure those are all set. And then go ahead and put the scope in there. And it's going to need some force. Those are tight now. So then what we'll do is we'll just lay the scope in here. Looks pretty good. And again, this is pretty simple, straightforward. It's easier to do this correctly on an AR because everything is so precise. Aluminum's it's easier with aluminum to machine something that's a lot more precise than it is steel. It costs more money. It's much harder on tools and on the tooling. So then what we'll do is we'll put on our forward cap right here. And again, I've never had problems with these mounts coming loose, so we're not going to go ahead and what you want to do is basically just get it the littlest bit, like literally a hair, so basically it'll hold the scope still, but so you can move it and it'll hold the scope still for you, so you can get it perfectly vertical. Basically, I just eyeball this up. It's kind of the way I go about doing things. I'm not going to get real fancy, roll the magnification all the way back, get real fancy with leveling and doing some stuff like that. We're going to get a little more on this. So we'll go ahead and we'll put the upper. Actually, that looks pretty good right there. Wow. I think we're pretty good. Holy smokes. That's too good. Just a little bit. Yeah, and you can get tools for this or pay a shop to do it for you. Dick's Sporting Goods right down the road from me charges $20 to mount and bore sight a scope. That's a reasonable investment if you're not comfortable. Bolt action, if you have to bed, if you one-piece mount, if you have to bed that, or two-piece mount and you have to bed it, that turns into a different ball game there. So now we're going to go ahead and we're happy where the position is, and I've done this from experience, with my setup, with the skeletonized stock back there, and we're going to go ahead and tighten these down. And what I'll do is I'll torque them down slowly, and we'll torque down one mount at a time. We want to make sure we torque them down in slow increments, and you torque down one scope ring at a time. Torque down one and then torque down a second one, because what you can happen if you start torquing down one and then torque down the other, you can actually twist the scope, and you don't want to do that, because it's definitely a precision optic, or most of them are. Some of them are not. And then basically I just go finger tight with these. Probably about 8 to 10 pounds, I would guess. And I'm pretty good with my fingers. And and I'll do it in stages. I'll take a look at each of the clearance in each side. And this one's got a bigger gap. So what we'll do is we'll loosen it up again. Loosen this one up. Go ahead and tighten this one down a little bit more. Take a look, see if we're still pretty level there. Yeah, that looks good. Yes, looks really nice. Just pick this up and look at it again. This looks beautiful. So yeah, let's just finish doing this. And then so basically the other thing you can check for too is slop in the back. And right now we have 0, which is what you want. There's nothing back there. It's sitting tight in that rear mount, which is what you want. It's firm in there. So we'll go ahead and we'll put on the rear mount. Got a little bit of clearance in there. I always like to make sure you got a little bit of clearance because the tube is supposed to be straight, but as it flares up, you don't want to get it on that round part and give that flare a little bit of room there. Make sure you don't cross thread it. You know, these are aluminum, these rings right here, and they're not cheap. They're 60 bucks for the pair, so there's a little bit of an investment there. So, and then just same thing with the rear one, and you can do either the front or the rear first, it doesn't matter. And then basically just go down in a series. Let's see what this looks like on the other side. It's a little tight, so we'll loosen it. Come down a little bit with this one just so the ring's a little more even. There we go. And then basically same thing, just go back and forth, just give each one, you know, like a little eighth of a turn until you bring it up to some good finger tightening torque. And you can get more scientific at this and get a little, you know, what is it, you know, ounces per inch wrench, which is fine, but this is okay for this, and this isn't super far out. And I've had really good success with this scope and these mounts. Marpers before. This has shot sub MOA before pretty easily, and it holds at 0. So, and I'm trusting in this Rock River upper is very plumb, and it's definitely a quality piece. So then we'll go ahead and we'll just double check them all, and that's pretty good right there. I think that's a wrap. That's it. The Nikon P-223 mounted on the AR upper right there. Just take your time, do it nice and carefully. Make sure you have good Allen wrenches. You don't want to strip your bolt holes. And that's basically, that's a wrap. But that's that. It should be a pretty, we're going to go out and test fire this soon, but this should be a pretty good setup here. Just let you folks eye this up. And yeah, that should be pretty accurate. I can't wait to shoot this, you know, stretch it out to a good 500-600 yards. But thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate it.